Welcome to Confirmation Class Week 5. Today we're going to look at the 7th and 8th commandments. We're going to skip commandment number 6 for this week and talk about it on another day. But today, commandments 7 and 8. Let's go ahead and begin with prayer. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. You shall not steal, the 7th commandment. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not take our neighbor's money or possessions or get them in any dishonest way, but help him to improve and protect his possessions and income. Have you ever taken anything that's not yours? I know I have, and I know when I watch my children, they do it too. They take it from each other. If you have a sibling, you've probably taken something that is not yours. You might say you borrowed it, but you ripped it out of your younger or older siblings' hands, or took it when they weren't looking and used it like it was yours. We've all been guilty of stealing in that way. But have you ever stolen from a friend? A friend has something that you like, that you want, and you take it as your own? Maybe a pencil, an eraser, something you thought was little and no big deal. Or have you ever stolen from a store, a candy bar, or something little, insignificant you thought? We're all guilty of stealing. But I think those are ways that we can logically think about it and say yes or no, I have done this. But I think when we look at the bigger picture, we're guilty even more often. What if someone is paying you to mow their lawn or rake their leaves or paint their house, and you agree to do it? They pay you to do it, and you are lazy in the job that you do. You don't do the job as well as you should, not on accident, not because you did your best but it wasn't good enough, but because you didn't do your best. You did as little as possible and you still took full payment. Were you stealing? I would argue that when we do that, we are guilty of stealing. What about watching movies illegally? Watching a movie that's on YouTube, that the person on YouTube or somewhere else on the internet posted a movie that they don't have the copyright for, and you watch it illegally. Is that stealing? Well, it is hurting someone else who should be making money through your viewing of that movie. Whether we like it or not, whether we feel like they already make enough money or not, isn't really the point. In a lot of ways, I agree with you, they do. But the law says that this is their property. This belongs to them. And you and I, when we do those things, are stealing it. Or downloading music. Instead of buying a CD, we download music illegally. We are again stealing and taking something that belongs to someone else without paying them for it. Churches can do this too. Churches can find music online, music that they don't have a copyright for, and use it in their worship services instead of paying for it. Is that stealing? Well, yes. Even churches can be guilty of stealing. Showing a movie at church, if you don't have the copyright for that movie, would be stealing because that movie doesn't belong to you and you don't have the right to show it at church. Those are all different ways that we steal. Acts chapter 5 tells us a story about Ananias and Sapphira. Ananias and Sapphira are a part of the early Christian church. They want to give money from the sale of a property to the church and to God. Except Ananias and Sapphira lie to God and lie to the church about how much money they got for this house, and therefore how much money they would be giving back to God and the church. And they didn't give to God and the church what they said they would. Were they stealing from God? Stealing from the church? In a sense, yes. Later, I'll have you look up Acts chapter 5 and see how God felt about their sin and how God dealt with it. Everything that we have belongs to God and comes from God. Are we using our possessions, our time and our talents for God and for His glory? When we don't use our possessions, our time and our talents for God and for God's glory, but for sin and for evil, are we stealing from God by using what God has given us for evil and for bad? Something to consider. Luther also puts a positive spin on this commandment as well, and he says we are to help our neighbor to improve and protect his possessions and income. How can you help your neighbor to improve their possessions and their income? What does that look like? Maybe it looks like volunteering to rake your neighbor's leaves for free, or mow his lawn, helping him take care of his property and his possessions. Maybe it looks like if you see someone trying to take his property, if you see someone hurting his property, helping him in some way, shape, or form to protect it and keep it. That's the seventh commandment. You shall not steal. It's much bigger than just taking something from our neighbor or our friend or in taking things that aren't ours. But it can be seen in things that we watch and listen to, or even the things that we find on the internet and maybe put it into a paper and use it as ours for our teachers and things like that. But God calls us to respect the possessions and things that belong to our neighbor and our friends and our community, and to help our neighbor, help our community keep what is theirs and then to improve it. Have a blessed day.